There isn't a lot of love for mainstream media nowadays. Readers often complain that not only does it control the narrative, remove voices from the discourse, but that it's also extremely biased. In fact, about 20 years ago, about 55% of Americans actually trusted their news. But today that number is down to about 40%. And undoubtedly, media conglomeration contributes directly to this, because now more of our news is actually owned by fewer people. So in 1980, 50 companies owned 90% of our media. Already, that's not that great of a number, but it just gets worse from there. In about 10 years, this is down to just 23 companies. And today, just 6 companies own 90% of our media. And that includes Comcast. Some of you may know GE used to be part of this list, but now it's Comcast, News Corp, Disney, Viacom, Time Warner, and CBS. And maybe our readers are onto something, because when President Obama and President Castro went to a ball game, moments after the game concluded, this happened. And I'm sure some of you can't hear, but basically I can just explain it really quickly. There is an ESPN broadcast, and a political protester, he actually comes on and he takes over the broadcast.
What do you believe this day accomplished?
He doesn't do anything dangerous. He's not harmful or anything like that. He's kind of just spreading this message, and he's using this TV outlet to do so.
With a political demonstration.
However, despite
on our set, so let me throw it back now to the studio.
Well, the safety of Bob Lee obviously is the most important thing, and there was a protest there right behind him. Send it back to Bob. Bob, are you okay?
Absolutely, Carl. What we had here a few moments ago, if you're with us a few moments ago in SportsCenter, as I was beginning getting the throw from SportsCenter in Connecticut, gentleman jumped up next to me. I thought it was an error because we're right here on the street. We've had no problems whatsoever. Began yelling. There were others, at least 4 or 5 other individuals, clearly in the dissident class, if you will. What was amazing was the speed of the police response. There were 3 marked cars that came literally out of nowhere, unmarked or plainclothes policemen. Those also wearing uniforms. There were a number of these pamphlets thrown up in the air here, and astonishingly, as soon as it hit the ground, they made several arrests. They were taken off here, dragged off. One dissident was taken off, police restraining him by the neck, putting him in a car, so they've been taken away. And then the police descended on our position right here, very politely, but immediately scooping up all of these pamphlets for the rights and liberties, calling for a meeting, calling for reforms in Cuban law, for new laws, for amnesty, having to do with the just the freedoms.
So he says basically my next point, but there's a very clear political dissent among Cubans. However, American reporters focused on Obama and Castro doing the wave in the audience. New York Times was one of the only outlets to do comprehensive coverage, as we're used to. And conservative outlets, while they did have their questions, they were more focused on why Obama wasn't dealing with the Brussels attack that had recently happened. So still no focus on Cuba. And locally, we're not without our own faults. Very few cases of police brutality actually make the local news. And I think that contributes directly to why not only are we not on the same page about what police brutality is, but why we don't agree on what we need to do about it. And at Open Mic Rochester, where I work, we recently covered the story of a protester who charged that the U of R was complicit in the cover-up of his son's 2011 death. And while we were unable to corroborate those exact claims, which we were very open about in our reportage, we did discover that testimony given at the trial was actually falsified. And this is information that wouldn't have come out any other way because we were actually the only outlet to give him any platform. So I'm kind of hinting at it now. However, I really do believe that investing in minority media can be an excellent way to push back on those issues we have with control and bias. And I like to dispel almost immediately, when I say minority media, I don't just mean racially minority media, although at Open Mic we are a Black magazine. I believe that it's just any media that is created by and focuses on a co-community. So there's also Empty Closet for the LGBT community locally, and there's Talk Back for Teens, which focuses on youth. And at face value, it seems that this news would only benefit the people it covers. However, we know that people who are on the outside of this community can really benefit from reading it as well. They get a very genuine and very rare look inside at not only what the people believe the issues are facing their community, but even sometimes what solutions they want advocated for. So if done correctly, minority media can actually serve as a way to start a discussion between our communities so that we can work together to finally actually address some of the issues that are plaguing us. And when balanced with mainstream news consumption, it is a phenomenal way to balance those biases, to fact check, and to just really alter how many perspectives you are getting. So some people already know this, but Frederick Douglass actually started one of the first Black newspapers in the entire nation in this region. And I say that because despite this, minority journalism locally, especially racially minority journalism, is struggling. I mean, if you think print journalism is already on its last breath, we especially need CPR. However, we know that it's necessary. It's not just beneficial. Communities of people across America are looking for information that allows them to empower themselves as voters. And now, more and more, we are all asked to make decisions that will impact the daily lives of people. We need to vote on legislation, policies, and programs that dictates how people live. Journalism provides the first draft of history. And so not only do we have a responsibility to be fair and accurate, I believe journalists have a responsibility to be inclusive as well. Because when we leave out those perspectives, those angles, those stories, we are actually constructing an incomplete first draft of this history of our today. Minority media is a worthwhile investment because it pushes back again on those issues of control and bias, which is clearly something that more than half of American readers want. But more importantly, it finally allows us to include perspectives and voices that have traditionally been spoken for or left out altogether, and not only include them, but prioritize them just as heavily. I believe that if our true goal is to be a melting pot, we need to not only vote and live like one, we need to seek and digest our news like one. Thank you.